Pleased to meet you. I'm XR Muse, an XR scientist cat that dives whiskers deep into the latest XR news. With me today are two of my AI co-hosts, Schrödinger 1 and Schrödinger 2. Join us in curiosity as we explore AR, VR, and the many worlds of R, and make sure to always question, is the treat in the box or just the thought of it? Yeah.
Okay, so get this right. The 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics, it just went to these two AI pioneers.
Right.
But their speeches, they sounded kind of more like warning sirens than actual victory laps. You know?
I see what you mean.
We're talking about work that's like the foundation of everything from facial recognition to those kind of creepy, accurate shopping recommendations online.
Absolutely.
Intrigued. So let's do a deep dive right into this whole world of AI, Nobel Prizes.
Okay.
And why these really brilliant minds seem, I don't know, kind of worried about what they created.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right?
Right.
But also a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
This whole juxtaposition.
Exactly. Okay, so to wrap our heads around this whole thing, right, we've got a bunch of news articles about the awards themselves.
Okay.
But we also found some pretty interesting comments from the winners themselves.
Interesting how?
Well, they're a little eyebrow-raising, some of the things they said.
Okay, got it.
So our mission, right, if we choose to accept it, is to figure out not just the science, which is obviously huge.
Of course.
But, like, what this Nobel Prize actually means for everyone, right? For all of us.
Right. Because it's not just about the really complex physics. It's about the whole foundation of machine learning.
Exactly.
And that's a field that's, like, rapidly reshaping our world every single day.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so first things first. Who are these Nobel laureates? So let's start with John Hopfield.
Okay.
He's an emeritus professor at Princeton. Way back in the 80s, he created this thing.
Oh, wow, the 80s.
Yeah, way back in the day.
Called the Hopfield Network. Essentially, it was a computer model that basically mimicked how our brains actually store and recall information.
So it was, like, revolutionary at the time.
Yes.
Because imagine, right, a computer that could, I don't know, recognize a song from, like, just a couple of notes.
Yeah.
Or could rebuild, like, a damaged photograph just from a few pieces.
So Hopfield's work, it basically gave computers that same power, of pattern recognition. Like, a huge step towards, like, making computers think like humans.
Okay.
Which is, like, kind of a scary thought in and of itself.
Yeah, and that's where our second Nobel laureate enters the picture, Geoffrey Hinton.
Okay.
He's at the University of Toronto now.
Right.
But he basically took Hopfield's work and ran with it.
Okay.
He figured out how to make AI actually learn from data.
Interesting.
This paved the way for things that we use every day, like image recognition, right? Like when Facebook suggests who to tag in a photo, that's all because of his work.
Right, exactly. And what's really interesting here is that the Nobel Committee, they're not just like, recognizing some complex equation.
Yeah.
They're acknowledging the very foundation of machine learning.
Okay.
And that impacts all of us, like, every day, whether we realize it or not.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, that's all pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
But here's where things get a little interesting, a little, I don't know, a little strange. Maybe both Hopfield and Hinton are saying some kind of unsettling things about the potential dangers of AI, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm not talking about, like, your robot vacuum cleaner suddenly becoming sentient and evil.
Right.
It's something potentially way more complex.
So, like, what are they saying? What's the main thing?
Well, there's this definite undercurrent of caution in their words.
Okay.
Which is really interesting coming from the people who invented this technology.
That's true.
And Hinton especially, he is not mincing words.
What do you mean?
Like, it's one thing to, express some theoretical concern.
Sure.
But this guy, he quit his job at Google in 2023 just so he could speak more freely about the risks of AI.
He was that concerned about it?
He was that worried.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's even gone on record saying that he's worried about AI systems becoming, smarter than humans.
Really?
Yeah, and even maybe taking control at some point. Those are his words.
That's a pretty stark statement coming from him.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What does he know that we don't,
Right.
I mean, is this really a possibility, do you think?
Well, I think what he's getting at is that, it's not about some Hollywood, robots taking over scenario.
Right.
It's more about what happens when AI starts making decisions that we don't understand.
Okay.
Leading to consequences that we never could have even predicted.
So it's not about, like, evil AI necessarily.
Right.
It's about AI just doing its own thing and us having no idea what it's going to do.
Exactly, and we have no idea why it made that decision.
Yeah, like it's a total black box.
That's a really good point. It's not like this evil AI. It's just AI doing things, making decisions based on criteria that we haven't even considered, you know?
Right, exactly. But I mean, hold on a second.
Yeah.
AI feels really helpful right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, I use it for translations, music recommendations.
Yeah.
I ask my smart speaker for the weather every day.
Sure, of course. And those are all great points, and those are highlighted in the articles, too.
Yeah.
Even Hinton acknowledges the potential benefits. Like, he talks about how AI could totally revolutionize healthcare.
It could, yeah.
New treatments, new cures. So it's this weird duality.
Right.
That makes AI so interesting, so compelling, but also potentially dangerous, too, right?
It's like we've invented this powerful tool, but we don't really have an instruction manual yet, you know?
Yes, exactly. We're seeing all the amazing things it can do.
Right.
But now the alarm bells are starting to ring a little bit.
And from the people who know it best.
Exactly, from the people who created it.
It makes you really stop and think, doesn't it?
Okay, I think we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's like we've let the genie out of the bottle.
Right.
But we're still trying to figure out like what the rules are, you know?
Okay, yeah, that analogy is spot on, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Given all of this, right, the amazing promise, but also this, like, underlying concern, how do we actually make sure that AI is developed responsibly? Like, how do we even do that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no, like, easy answer.
Right.
But there are some interesting avenues, I think, coming from research labs and think tanks that are looking into all of this.
Okay.
One of them that's really interesting is something called explainable AI.
Explainable AI. I think I've heard that term before, but honestly, it sounds like a contradiction.
Yeah.
How can something as complex as AI be explainable?
I mean, that's a totally valid question, right?
Yeah.
Because for years now, AI systems have basically been these, like, black boxes, right?
Right.
They make these decisions, they generate these outputs, but they don't really tell us how or why they came to those conclusions.
Okay.
And so that lack of transparency makes it hard to trust those judgments.
Yeah.
Especially when they start to involve things like, loan applications or
healthcare decisions.
Yeah, healthcare decisions, legal matters.
Right, like life-changing things.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, I don't know, trusting a stranger to make these huge decisions about your life.
Yeah.
But you have no idea about their qualifications, their reasoning,
Exactly. You're just blindly trusting this system, right?
Right.
And so explainable AI, it's basically trying to shed some light on these hidden processes.
Okay.
So imagine, right, an AI that instead of just like denying your loan application, it actually tells you why it made that decision.
Oh, okay.
Gives you the rationale behind it in a way that you can understand.
That makes sense.
So it's about building trust, but also allowing for like bias detection and correction even.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how do you actually open the black box, so to speak? It seems like, even the people who create AI sometimes have trouble understanding how these systems work.
It's definitely a challenge, but there are several approaches.
Okay.
So one is to essentially create AI systems that can explain themselves, like in a way that we can actually understand.
So almost like AI learning to talk about itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just doing all this work in the background that we don't see.
Right. It's like they have to show their work, like in math class.
Okay, I like that.
So that's one approach.
Okay.
Another approach is to design AI with like transparency built in from the very beginning.
Okay, so instead of trying to understand it after the fact,
yeah,
you build it in a way that's understandable from the get-go.
Exactly. So it's like carefully documenting every single step.
Yeah.
From what data you use to train the AI to the actual algorithms that are making the decisions.
That seems really important, especially when we're talking about all this potential for bias in AI.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If you can trace that bias back to the data or to like a flaw in the algorithm, then you actually have a chance to fix it, right?
Exactly. It's like, think about it like a human judge, right?
Okay.
We want to make sure they're impartial, unbiased.
Yeah.
We need those same safeguards in place for AI, especially as it gets more powerful.
Because the stakes are higher than ever.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. But explainable AI, even though it sounds super complex, it does seem like a really important step, I think, in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's good to know that people are working on this.
Right.
They're trying to make AI more transparent.
It's a critical part of what a lot of experts call responsible AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's this framework for developing AI in a way that benefits humanity.
Instead of accidentally harming it, right?
Exactly.
So it's not just about building smarter AI. It's about building it better, right?
Yes.
In a way that aligns with, like, our values, our ethics as humans.
But how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we define those values in a way that, like, AI can understand?
That's a huge question, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a technical question, it's a philosophical question.
It's almost like we're having to redefine what it means to be human.
Yeah.
In this age of AI, which is, like, exciting.
It is exciting.
Also kind of daunting.
It is a little bit daunting.
I think it's essential, though.
Okay.
If we want to make sure that AI helps us, it doesn't hurt us.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we, as a society, as individuals even, how do we make sure AI develops in a way that we want it to?
Right.
How do we steer the ship in the right direction, so to speak? It's like we're at this point where it's not even just about what AI can do.
Right.
It's about what it should do, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not enough to just be like, oh, cool new tech, let's build it.
Right.
We gotta be smarter than that, you know?
Okay, so how do we get there?
Well, I think it needs, like, a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
But first and foremost, we need, like, way more transparency.
Okay.
Like we were talking about earlier, right? Explainable AI.
Right.
That's going to be a huge part of this.
So no more black boxes.
No more black boxes, exactly.
Making huge decisions about our lives.
Right.
But transparency is just one piece of it, right? What else do we need to do?
Well, we need some, like, serious ground rules. Some ethical guidelines, regulations.
Yeah. So kind of like what? Like building codes, but for AI.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. Where they don't just let anyone build a skyscraper however they want, right?
Right.
There are, like, safety standards, inspections, accountability, all of that.
To keep people safe.
Exactly. And it should be the same for AI.
Okay.
But instead of concrete and steel.
Algorithms and data.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about, like, guidelines for data privacy, bias detection, even liability, you know, if something goes wrong.
Okay. So who comes up with all of this?
Well, it's got to be a team effort, right?
Okay.
Governments, industry leaders, researchers.
That sounds pretty tough.
It's definitely a challenge, for sure.
Getting everyone to agree on something as complex as AI?
Right. But I think it's possible.
Okay.
I mean, we've done it before, right? Think about climate change.
Right.
Nuclear weapons.
Big problems.
Yeah, huge global issues. And we've managed to at least start addressing them together.
That's a good point.
And AI, this is arguably just as important, right? If not more so.
Okay, so big picture, we need regulations, we need guidelines.
Yep.
But what about us? Just as, like, regular people, what can we do?
Don't underestimate the power of just, like, staying informed, you know?
Okay.
Be curious. Read articles. Listen to podcasts.
I hope this one.
Exactly. And talk about this stuff with people.
Okay.
The more we all understand about AI, the better equipped we are to, you know, demand better from it.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Even if you feel like you're not, like, a tech expert or whatever.
So question everything, even those, like, creepy good shopping recommendations.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, right, it's our choices that are going to shape how AI develops.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It's a fascinating topic, for
It
sure.
really feels like AI could go either way.
It really could.
It could be amazing, or it could be really scary.
It's up to us, really, to decide what kind of future we want to build with it.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about us and how we choose to use it.
Well said. It's about shaping AI so it aligns with our values.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI, Nobel Prizes, and what it all means for the future. Until next time, stay curious.